time to get loud.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Back Lot Banter review. My name is Tucker Hazel. Today I am joined by my co-host who's absolutely far past his prime and should go straight to VOD, Tanner Dykstra. And today we're here to talk about... Tanner, are we going to call it Expend4bles or Expendables 4?
That's what the title is. Expend4bles.
Okay. Alright, we're going with that. But if you are a fan of the Expendables series and you have seen this movie, of course, we're very interested to hear your thoughts on the cinematic piece. I'm not going to add the word master in there. But, Tanner, we have seen this movie. You know the plugs. Subscribe.
You get it.
Yeah. Come on. Tanner, we've seen Expendables 4. Sorry. My bad. Let's try it again. Tanner, we've seen Expend4bles. Give me your thoughts about this movie.
Tucker, I don't know if I have a whole lot of thoughts about Expend4bles.
Let's get a 15-minute review out of this baby.
Because it fucking sucks, dude. It's bad from the word go. These movies have never been good. We watched all three of them very recently, actually. These movies have never been good, but they were at their best in Expendables 2.
Definitely.
When we had probably our most star-studded cast, and we were just having fun and doing dumb lines that were like, I recognize that from the movie, or it's a joke about a movie that they were in 30 years ago, or whatever. There's none of that here, so we're just going back to the old, terrible, expendable stomping ground of really shitty action movie that looks awful. No one in it is a good actor, and it's steeped in like our actors' egos and the fact that they are past their prime, and it's directed by someone who can't direct an action movie like this, who can't do justice to good action presences, good martial arts presences, like we added Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais to this one. And they're not served at all. No one is served at all. This is an empty exercise and one of the worst movies that we've seen this year.
I frankly, I think this might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And that might sound kind of crazy, but in the context of I have never really delved deep into straight to VOD or straight to streaming action movie releases, this is one of the sloppiest, cheapest, crappiest movies I've ever seen in a theater. I mean, this feels unfinished. It feels stitched together. It feels simple in all the wrong places. And it underserves every single element of itself. The thing that I look back somewhat fondly on now in comparison to Expend4bles with those other movies is that there was this sense of camaraderie between the characters. And the idea of getting together a bunch of actors from the action movies that all kind of acted within a similar time frame, and they had this kind of bond going because of that, was fun even if the movies weren't good. That first movie's fucking boring, and it's terrible.
Yeah,
but
it's really bad.
We're having Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger show up in cameos in that one. And the core cast is, I think, probably at its best in 1 and 2. But we have, over the course of the three movies leading up to this, lost multiple people that were so interesting from those first few. Terry Crews is completely gone. Multiple characters have passed away in the lore of these movies. And so when we get to Expendables 4, and really the only people left are Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Randy Couture, and
Dolph
Lundgren. And the last two are in incredibly supporting roles. And one of the first two, I won't say which, is in a surprisingly supporting role. It's kind of obvious if you watch the trailers. Means that this movie just feels empty from any of the personality that it had before. Because even the crazy character actors that are in action movies aren't present here, largely. And we're backfilling this group with multiple people we've never heard of before, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But for the idea, the concept that these movies are going for, you're trying to go into the theater to see a group of people that are all famous that have this bond that is completely stripped away when half of the group is either delivering simple, lame, one-note performances because they're fucking old or they're not in the movie much, or they're people that don't have that reference to them because they're not people that you've seen a lot before.
Yeah, so let's talk about them because Well, actually, let's start with our headliners.
Sure.
Let's start with Statham. He is the main character of this movie.
And Tanner, he's the best part of the film, bar none.
Yeah, because even though, and he's the ego that I was talking about, because Jason Statham famously has this contract that he can never lose a fight.
Yeah.
So I find that action movies with him aren't entirely interesting because
sure,
he never loses, and there's a meta reason why he's never going to lose a fight ever in an action movie. But he still has that. He still has some Jason Statham charisma about him. He's been in many, many action movies. He'll be in many, many more, and he kind of has his attitude in them down pat.
Yeah, yeah. And he likes this character of Christmas, obviously. Like,
yeah.
he has this sort of story about not quite, connecting to other people and wanting to get in and out of the game. And this is a Christmas movie. This is a Christmas story right here. And Jason Statham absolutely does the best with what he's doing. He's delivering his lines with a little bit of a twinge to them. He has reasonably good chemistry with the people around him. But the problem is, even though he's doing his normal job, but he's good at that job, so he's doing a good job in this movie. He is surrounded by fucking zombies. I can't think of almost anyone else in the supporting cast that is doing a great job. And if they are, it's individual scenes. Or they're not in it enough to make it feel like they're a actual presence in this movie. And that core team, man, it is
the
bad.
The action superstars that we've assembled for our supporting cast include such massive names as Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, who is primarily a musician, a rapper, but has been in action movies. Such hits as Escape Plan with Sylvester Stallone again, The Frozen Ground, Den of Thieves, Escape Plan 2.
I did not know about that.
Yeah.
Is there Escape Plan 3 down there? Good God.
I don't know. But, obviously
these are, straight to VOD.
Exactly.
Movies. So there's not really a subsect of people that are like, oh, man, I love 50 Cent action movies. I can't wait to see 50 Cent work alongside Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone.
It reeks of, oh, shit, who can we get?
And it's honestly kind of sad watching all these movies back to back, how every single time they gotta dredge up another black guy to be on the team. They leave every single time, and frankly, I think we peaked with Wesley Snipes. He certainly brought a different energy, but Terry Crews is so much fun in those first few movies, and he's Terry Crews, and I love him. He's got this charisma. 50 Cent, I mean, he might be one of the worst actors in this entire franchise. He's sleeping through his lines. I can't remember a single thing of action that he did other than pointing a gun at a CGI nonsense. And
there's a lot of that.
And he's not an engaging presence in this movie. He's there to add another body that is mildly famous, but not for the reason the Expendable movies are interesting.
And the same can be said for Megan Fox, who signed on to this movie back in a previous iteration when it was supposed to be the Lady Expendables or whatever. She's here. She's actually well versed in doing some straight to VOD stuff as of late.
But that's the kind of talent we're pulling from at this point.
Yeah. So she's really bad.
She's really bad. I gotta drill in on why she's so bad.
Okay.
Because
tell me about
she ends up being the leader for the group in this movie.
Yeah.
But the character is written in a way I think probably to match Megan Fox's acting abilities, where she delivers her lines boringly. And the characters are like, oh, you're not putting a lot of energy to this. Oh, that's kind of weird. And she's like, that's just how I am. But no, it's because you're just a bad actress, and they had to write a reason why this character is so uninteresting and lacks charisma and energy. It's because you're not delivering your lines properly. It's so bad that they had to come up with an in-universe reason why her acting was so bad.
Yeah. We also have some people who I'm not familiar with in terms of name, and that is Jacob Scipio and Levi Tran.
Yeah.
As two new members. Jacob plays the son of Antonio Banderas.
Galgo's son. Which is just funny, because it's another thing where it's so obvious you couldn't get back the guy you were wanting. He was so much fun in that last movie, but you maybe want diversity on this, and so having a guy that's not just the white action star on your team adds a slight amount of diversity. But even though this guy, Jacob Scipio, does totally fine. He's totally fine in this movie. He's not offensively bad like 50 Cent and Megan Fox. He's not why you're here in this movie. He does not fit into this Expendables team. He feels shoehorned in. He feels like like they had to make a concession. We want to have Galgo in this movie, but we can't have Galgo. So let's come up with a son for Galgo that we didn't know existed. And he does the exact same thing as Galgo, and he's just gonna be on the team from the start.
He's kind of cracking jokes, but then after Tucker, let's spoil Expendables 4. Who gives a fuck? Barney, Sylvester Stallone, dies. Okay, and
terrible sequence, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. His character, whose name is Gallon instead of Galgo, is like sad about it and like takes a vow of silence for a bit after Barney dies.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just weird. And then at that point, he's just kind of sad and sulking around and not cracking jokes, which was one thing that this movie maybe had going for it. I don't know. Sucks. Tucker, you talked about the terrible sequence in which Sylvester Stallone dies. And let's talk about the visual effects, the visual stylings of Expend4bles.
Yeah. It's a thing that we really have to drill in on as probably the core reason why this movie is as bad as it is. Because this isn't a movie that knows it has poor special effects and minimizes them in order to work with what they've got. This is a movie that believes it's operating on the level of the great action set pieces in a movie, and we're going to spend 90% of this movie in those action sequences. And that is the real... I mean, among many, this is the real flaw of Expend4bles, is that some fucking how, this is a $100 million movie, okay?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. This looks like, again, straight to VOD, straight to streaming, really cheap, rushed.
And the crazy thing about that is, Duggar, if they say it's $100 million, it's probably more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about that is they spend so much of the movie in these action sequences that it just continually gets drilled into your skull over and over again how bad this is. This isn't the fleeting singular shot in Black Widow or Shang-Chi that people are like, oh man, boy, look at Marvel slacking. This is, every scene looks unfinished. Some of them look like PS2 backgrounds. I saw one shot that was like a bunch of things exploding, and I'm like, this looks like a PS1 era FMV cutscene.
Yeah, they have that like clay-like like pre-CGI
FMV quality, absolutely.
feeling and looking, especially in that plane crash that Barney goes down in. I was like, oof, that's a oof.
And I gotta give the biggest insult that I've ever given to CGI in my life, right here and right now, because I think this is the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. Is it honestly looks like some of these effects were done in the free-to-download apps on the App Store that let a 6-year-old make an action movie in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Blood app, explosion app, helicopter crash app, bullet hole in glass app to make it make it look like there's a bullet hole in my phone. That is the kind of stuff we're working with here. It seems it's poorly composited into the world. The green screen is fucking atrocious.
There's moments at times, and a lot of times actually, where I swear I could make out the compositing line around a character.
Yeah.
Which is something that they figured out in like the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, green screen and matte backdrops and rear projection have been used in films forever. But somehow they leaned into the idea of CGI budget here for our action spectacle so much and got a terrible team or didn't give them the money, didn't give them time. Who knows?
It's got to be
all of them.
Whenever you see something like this, it's almost never the VFX workers. It's almost always the studio being like, you have 2 weeks to do this.
And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And even on a larger scale, okay, we're talking about how bad these special effects are constantly. I don't think there's any shots that look good that are special effects. In fact, I think there's only one shot that I liked in the movie, and it wasn't a special effect.
What was it?
It's just It's a shot after Megan Fox and Jason Statham finish getting it on, and the camera is actually placed on top of a fan, and it's spinning alongside this fan blade as it's covering like their exposed crotches, and there's like panting hanging off the fan. I'm like, huh, that's a pretty clever place to put the fan or to put the camera. I'm like, oh, that's one fucking time. One fucking time. This movie had a good shot. But so it's constantly bad special effects. But even on a large scale, as I was getting to, this movie isn't edited to even have these poor special effects work well as action sequences. It is sloppily put together. Anytime we are looking at these characters shooting a gun or punching a guy or stabbing a guy, we are cutting around these beats, so it's hard to tell what's going on. Even when you have people like Iko Uwais and Jason Statham that are... I said Jason Statham
Taken.
that are great at hand-to-hand combat and can do their own stunts, but you don't let that shine because you're constantly cutting around, and so we just get to see these poor special effects and poorly done choreography, absolutely cut to incomprehensible shit.
Yep. Andy Garcia betrays them. Who could have seen it coming?
I could have. I leaned over to Sam and I said, that's going to happen.
the army guy who wears suits and like is in charge of everything. He's a bad guy, actually. What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What a unique twist. Never saw it coming.
The twist. Also, Sylvester Stallone didn't die.
The timeline. This is just random things we're trying to get under the wire before we give our scores. The timeline at the beginning of the movie is very odd because we see our villain who's getting nuclear detonators. You see him like taking over Gaddafi's old chemical plant or whatever.
They point that out specifically.
And then Barney dies, and then the Expendables like retreat and they go home to like collect themselves and grieve. And you would imagine that takes like a couple weeks, couple months, maybe.
I doubt it.
But at the same time, it seems like the villain plot is just moving forward anyway. Yeah. So it's like, is this all happening?
A nuke out of nowhere, and then there's a fucking nuke just in the middle of all of this.
Is this happening in a couple days? It's not at all clear, and it's so confusing. It's the editing thing again. It's really bad. Tucker, I'm gonna give out a sub 1 for this one. I'm gonna give out
I'm going there as well.
A fucking 0.5.
I'm going right there with you. 0.5. I genuinely think this might be the worst movie we've ever reviewed on this channel. I mean, there's not like, oh, okay, at least the production value is kind of good, or at least, a couple people are like doing their best in this movie. No. Everyone's doing a sleepy performance. It looks terrible. It's paced terrible. It's edited terrible. It's written terrible.
Yeah.
Every single element of this movie is just
you can't name
flawed.
A good thing about it.
No.
You can't name a good thing about it, frankly.
It is shockingly horrendous.
Yeah.
Like I was stunned. I felt embarrassment.
Yeah.
Finishing this movie like, wow. They put this out into theaters.
Yeah.
I think this might be the worst movie I've ever seen in theaters.
Yeah.
I see a lot of bad movies in theaters.
All these superlatives that Expend4bles is getting. Worst movie we reviewed on the channel. Worst movie I've ever seen in a theater. Incredible stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck. We'll talk to you guys in later.
So is this gonna be our first don't go see this in theaters?
We must have said that once before. Probably Shazam.
I feel like we've said don't go see it in theaters, but if you enjoy like the stuff, you maybe catch it on streaming or whatever. Is this our first don't watch this movie?
Yeah, not even don't see it in theaters. Don't pay for it on video on demand. Don't even watch it on streaming, because then you're going to start getting these shittier action movies that are showing up in your recommended whatever god fucking saken freebie goddamn platform this goes to.
You could get Scott Waugh's other 2023 film, Hidden Strike.
Jesus Christ. This is a fucking trash fire, and I hated every moment of it.
Bye.